Alright, new video. What we talking about today?
Fuck.
All jokes aside, Velma 2 Electric Boogaloo. Okay, I lied about the jokes part. But Velma Season 2 has been released, and it has taken the internet by storm once again, with people hating it left and right, which is honestly respectable and understandable. But, I kinda liked it.
Move this man!
Hold it! Now, before you hop down to the comments and tell me my opinion is invalid because I actually like Velma in some capacity, which has happened before, but just hear out what I have to say first, alright? Velma is an abysmal show, and I would never recommend it for anyone to watch ever, especially if you're a fan of Scooby-Doo.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
I know that doesn't make sense, so again, just listen to me, alright? So, the first season of Velma, when that came out, I hated all the marketing for the show. The changes for it seemed very weird to me, but I was still willing to give it a shot and look at it as a show to see if I liked it, because although I am a fan of Scooby-Doo, I'm not a massive fan of the franchise. So, I watched it. I was a little bit more lenient on the first episode than most people were, but as the season progressed, it slowly deteriorated my sanity and drained it from my soul like that monster from Bloodborne.
Bruh.
And eventually, I grew to just hate the show. I started skipping weeks when episodes would come out because I just didn't want to watch it, and it kind of backfired on me because then I had to binge multiple episodes in one sitting, which was worse off than I would have liked. But eventually, I just ended up hating the show entirely. I finished it, talked about how much I hated it on this channel, and then I left it at that. But now, Season 2 rolled around, and I was expecting it to be the same set of circumstances as Season 1. I was going to hate watching the show, it was going to suck getting through every single episode so I could make this review, and to my surprise, that didn't exactly happen, for a multitude of different reasons. First of which being, I had seen Velma before now. When I went into the first season, I didn't know what to expect from this show, and I ended up hating it. But with Season 2, I knew what to expect. My expectations from watching the first season were set extremely low, like below hell levels of low. So going into Season 2, I knew what I was going to experience. I expected it to be just as bad as the first season, if not slightly better, because I couldn't imagine it being any worse than what the first season was. And I went into the show going, alright, this is what it's going to be. If it does any better, I'll be happy that it managed to improve on what it was before. That's my mindset going into the show. And luckily for me, I ended up enjoying the show, and it resulted in me binging through the show. I watched like 7 episodes in one sitting, took a nap, woke up, and finished the last 3. And that brings me to my next point about why I was able to go through the show, that being that it all released at once. HBO Max and Warner Brothers dropped the entire season all on April 25th because they probably lost faith in the entire show, which, to be honest, I completely understand that. But thanks to them doing that, I could watch Velma at my own pace. If I wanted to binge it, I could binge it. If I wanted to watch it week to week, I could watch it week to week. If I wanted to watch it semi-slow and semi-fast, I could do that as well. I was fully open to control how I enjoyed the show based off of my enjoyment of every episode that I had seen. Liked an episode, I'd go directly to the next one. If I didn't, I'd be like, alright, I'm gonna take a break, I'm gonna do something else, I'm gonna calm down, and then I'm gonna come back to it later. It was perfect. It allowed me to do whatever I needed to do with the show. And that's pretty much it. That's all I had to say. I don't have any other points about what put me in a mindset to enjoy this show. So I went into this show less negative than I feel like a lot of other people did. I feel like a lot of people went into the show like, oh my god, more Velma, fuck this show. And they went into it with that mindset, hated it, and that's it. They hated the show, they went on Twitter, they talked about how horrible the show was, made fun of it, memed it, moved on with their lives. But because I went into it with a slightly more positive mindset, thinking like, okay, I might not like it because it's probably going to be the same quality as the first season, but I'm open to see if it managed to improve, it allowed me to see the positives in the show. The first of which being, it was actually funny. You see, the first season of Velma is painfully unfunny, which is a bad thing because it's a comedy series. So this season actually having jokes that multiple times in an episode would at least have me chuckling helped me get through the season, because instead of me being like, oh my god, this joke isn't funny, you're just being annoying, you're trying to be self-aware and woke, and it's being super annoying and obnoxious right now, I was able to watch the show and be like, oh hey, I found that funny, man, I am actually enjoying myself watching this episode right now. My personal favorite joke from the entire season was probably this.
I'm sorry, but the popular clique has already absorbed a mouthy nerd and brains in jars. We have to draw the line at witches or we're literally just the drama club.
Now, coming from personal experience of someone who almost all of my friend group is formulated of former theater kids, you don't want to be the theater kids. So I completely agree with this sentiment. By the way, guys, this is just a joke, okay? I love you guys. Please answer my calls in the future. Thanks. So, like, yeah, Velma Season 2 was actually genuinely funny, in my opinion, and it really helped me get through the season, because instead of it being a painfully unfunny show that's making a bunch of self-aware jokes and woke statements that are like, even if I agree with what you're saying, I don't like the characters saying it, so I'm not having a good time, and the way you're executing it is extremely poor. I was just like, oh, hey, that's funny. Okay, yeah, I'm moving along. Wow, I finished this episode already. That's crazy. That worked out significantly better for me. And I would like to make a montage compilation of like a lot of the jokes that I liked in this season. But the last time I put a lot of clips of something Warner Brothers owned into a video, they copyright struck it to hell, and no matter what I did to the video, it would never get out of that. Remember when I did a Static Shock video?
You what?
Bet you don't, and that's why. So, it seems to me what most people have truly been hating about the overarching narrative of Velma's story was the answer to the mystery that we get at the end of the season. And that answer being that Velma's dad's girlfriend, I'm not going to say that the entire video, nor am I going to look at the name of the character, so we're just going to abbreviate that to VDG, alright? Sounds good with you? Well, I don't care. That's what I'm going to go with. So, VDG turns out to be a soldier for the US military who was a part of Project Scooby, which, if you do not remember, in Season 1 it was revealed that Norville's grandmother, Edna Purdue, had developed a project called Project Scooby, with an I, not a Y, because Scooby-Doo can't be in this show in any sort of capacity. So, she developed a project that would take military soldiers' minds and implant them in the bodies of teenagers so that they could infiltrate teenage groups and gain their secrets. The project ended up getting scrapped and destroyed. However, what the US government decided to do, which is fleshed out in this season, is that since they can't put the minds of soldiers into teenagers to get their secrets, they would have their soldiers go undercover to learn the secrets of teenagers, and VDG is one such soldier. That's why she works undercover as a waitress at that malt shop that all the teenagers hang out with in the show. However, because her job is essentially 40 hours a week of listening to teenagers talk about bullshit nonsense, she hates her job, which, like, if I was being told 40 hours a week I had to listen to teenagers complain about their problems, I'd probably want to jump off of a cliff. So I completely understand where she's coming from in this situation. So, one day, while she's working undercover, she sees Velma's mom reading Edna Purdue's journal, and she takes the information from it and uses it to create a new project. That project being Scrappy-Doo. She uses the information and experiments that were down in Edna's journal to create Scrappy. Scrappy would be a talking dog that can infiltrate teenage ranks and get their secrets as a way for her to get a different job, because, again, if I had to listen to teenagers talk for 40 hours a week, I'd probably want to jump off a cliff. So, she created Scrappy to do it for her, and the government was like, you know what, this is a great idea. Teenagers, they love dogs, so if we have a dog that infiltrates their groups and can speak English, it'll come back to us and tell us everything that they had to say. This is genius. Although, there was one problem with this. Scrappy was a psychotic murderer, so the government shut down the program and wanted nothing to do with Scrappy. And this pissed him off, so Scrappy developed a plan to hunt down and murder all of the government officials that shut down the project, essentially abandoning him after bringing him to life with full sentience. So that is what leads into the murders of this season, where every guy that's been killed has had their dick bitten off. I know it's stupid, but like it's still Velma, so like that's why he bites the dicks off. We're just gonna keep going. So that's why all the victims seem to be completely isolated from one another. They were all different ages. They all worked different jobs, or at least their aliases were different jobs. None of them seemed to be friends or know each other. That was the commonality between everything. They all secretly worked for this government experiment to create Scrappy and decided to screw him over. So Scrappy wanted to kill all of these guys, take his revenge, then implant his brain inside of a teenage body, because throughout the course of the season we learn that Norville's grandmother Edna is still alive and still operating Project Scooby, just in a secret off-site facility that no one, including the government, knows about. So he was going to force her to put his mind inside of a teenager's body and then disappear so that no one could ever find him or try to kill him or arrest him for the crimes that he did, killing those government officials. That is more or less what the mystery is for Velma 2. Now, although it's stupid, I will completely agree that it's stupid. Does it make sense? Yes. There was nothing about that I didn't understand from beginning to end, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to explain it to you. So I fundamentally understand why everything happened. Do I think it's dumb as fuck? Yes. But something being dumb and something not making sense are very different things. So like, I completely understand everything that happened, but I also think it is some of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my entire life. So, very different distinction. So I feel like a lot of people are getting their wires crossed. They think the story's dumb and they're calling it nonsensical, but it's not the same thing. It makes sense, it's just stupid. And that's where I fall in the situation, and I think that's perfectly reasonable. But what I feel about this story is that it's actually pretty good. I actually like that. I think it fits in with this whole like teen drama parody thing with like all the murders and stuff happening. I think the reasoning behind everything happening is ridiculous enough. I love the introduction of Scrappy. I love that he's voiced by Jason Mantzoukas. I think he did a fantastic job at the character, making Scrappy sound equal parts asshole and equal parts Scrappy-Doo. So that worked out phenomenally for me. And everything kind of coming back full circle with them bringing back Norville's grandmother and the government experiments and everything tying together into who this new killer was. And the fact that the killer was basically a monster this season as opposed to just like a person like it was last season where like Fred's mom was the person killing everyone. I like the idea that like this season played into the whole trope that like there was a monster killing everyone in town, but the monster ended up being real, that case being Scrappy-Doo. Kind of reminds me a lot of like the first live-action Scooby-Doo movie that James Gunn made, where like there were real monsters and then by the end of the movie Scrappy was turned out to be the bad guy. I feel like it's definitely taking elements from that with, you know, making him the secret villain by the end of the movie. I wouldn't be surprised if that's where they were coming from with this idea in the first place. But yeah, I really liked it. I think it did fantastically. And on top of that, I loved how this series ended. I don't know why I call it series. Well, I suppose it's probably not going to get any sequels. Like, there probably isn't going to be a season 3 or extension of the show. This is probably the series finale for Velma. So I really ended up liking how this story ended, which everyone has been enjoying how this ended, but I actually enjoy a completely different aspect of it. Most people have been happy about how this story ends because Scrappy-Doo murders Velma, and because they hate the show, they hated Velma, and they're happy that the show ends with her being murdered. However, that isn't exactly what I like about it. I do like the fact that Velma dies, but something I haven't heard nearly enough people talk about is why and how Scrappy ends up losing this season. Velma, after being killed, because we learned throughout the course of the season that ghosts are real, turns into a ghost. But instead of passing on to the afterlife, the first thing she does is shadow possess Scrappy and tear his soul apart, because we learned in the series that Scrappy is basically virtually indestructible, so they can't kill him with normal means. So when Velma turns into a ghost, she rips his soul apart from the inside out so that he'll die. And it's metal as fuck. Like, just look at this.
What is happening?
By me.
Like, I haven't heard nearly enough people talking about how cool that was, and I get it. People hate Velma. They probably don't want to say that she did anything cool, but like, come on, man, that was awesome. So then the season ends with Velma killing Scrappy. Everything's fine, but they say Velma's body is too damaged for her to go back inside and just be alive. So they're like, yeah, you're kind of just fucked. You're dead now, girl. And she's like, what? And then they're told that there is a spell, because spells are also real in the Velma universe, that can resurrect Velma. But there's a slight hitch with that. The spell can only be cast on Halloween, and until that time comes, Velma is going to have to hide and run from demons that will be actively trying to drag her soul to hell. And I'm like, that sounds pretty cool as a cliffhanger and a setup for a new season that I kind of want to see now. So like, yeah, although the story as a whole is a bit ridiculous and crazy and campy, that ending is absolutely baller, and I'm actually curious to see what they were planning to do with it. If this show never gets another season or any sort of extension, I would love the writers to just like post online somewhere what exactly their plans were for the future of this show, because like that's a very intriguing ending that actually made me want to see more of Velma. So, before I do give my final thoughts on the show, there is one last thing I want to talk about. Didn't really have a place to like fit anywhere in this, but like there's a joke in the second episode of Velma where they showcase two other iterations of Velma and Daphne that are objectively better character designs than Velma and Daphne, which significantly upsets me. Essentially, the way the episode starts is Velma's talking about how she's super popular now because she caught the serial killer in the first season, and now there are people dressing up as her, and because Daphne's also popular, that means people also dress up as Daphne. And then two girls walk past them, and this is the shot that we get. I absolutely love these designs of Velma and Daphne. Now, before anyone wants to like get into it being like, oh, you just like their designs because they're white now, it's it. No. Okay? No. Granted, do I believe that like media should be made for people of color that's original rather than just race swapping characters? Yes, I fundamentally believe that, because I would rather an original character that I can bond to than just making a character I already know black. That doesn't make me like them anymore because you changed their race. Like, I'm not attached to them any more than that. They're still the same exact character. You just changed the color of their skin. That doesn't make them better. It doesn't make me care about them more. But in this specific instance, the reason why I like these character designs more is because I just think they're better designs. Like, Velma in Velma has like a very off design. She looks like Mindy Kaling cosplaying Velma more than she looks like an iteration of Velma. So like this other version of her, she's got the freckles, her lips aren't like actually drawn, she's just got like that cartoony line drawn, which is like more in line with other iterations of Velma, and I like that. It makes her look more like the versions of Velma that I know from like everything else. I think she looks a lot nicer here. And then in regards to Daphne, I love the look of her clothes. The design looks very cool. I love the weird like bonnet beehive thing or whatever the hell girls call that look that they did with her hair. The clothing that she's wearing is different than her just like generic clothing that like the one from Velma is wearing, because like the one from Velma, if I'm being honest, looks like an original character that's just wearing Daphne's clothes. But like this other drawing of her looks like Daphne, and like I said, I already like how more cartoony their designs are in comparison to the ones from Velma, and I don't know, it's just nice. I didn't have a place to really put this in the video, but like I like the designs, and it's upsetting that like these weren't just the designs that they used in the show because of, I don't know. I don't know the reason why the characters were designed the way they were for Velma. I don't know the reason why anyone mentioned that they had to change the race or anything like that. Like, it just is the way it is, but the fact that these designs were just like loaded up in the background and they used them for this episode, it's kind of disappointing to me that they aren't like the main designs of the show. So yeah, I figured I would mention that somewhere in here, so I'm putting it here. But yeah, those are really all my thoughts that I have on Velma. So yeah, I'm back. Those are my thoughts on Velma. Most people probably didn't finish this video because as soon as they heard me say that I liked Velma, they probably clicked off. So if you finished this video, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate that. And yeah, that's really about it. I'm the Innocent Villain. Remember folks, you're innocent until proven villainous, and I will most certainly catch you in the next video. Peace out.